What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Squeegee Board. My name is Jamie Hallman. I own a window cleaning business here in Michigan, and this is episode 3 that is labeled Why I Chose to Scale. Many of you guys know my story, know how I kind of got started out, and I just chose to do a whiteboard series, just kind of all about things helping, solopreneurs. Really, a lot of this stuff will be very instrumental in a lot of home service industries, not just window cleaning, but window cleaning is just kind of what I've done. And in the past year, in 2025, I decided to make the leap to scale after I did a coaching program with Home Service Business Coach. Shout out David Mormon. You guys are fantastic. They were pivotal at letting me change mindset from technician to CEO. And I think that's until you can do that, it's going to be very hard for you to envision what your company can become if that's what you choose. Now, if you're just trying to just stay in the truck, do your thing, more power to you. I love it. That was me 3 or 4 years ago, but circumstances change, things change, mindset changes. And once I got a taste of getting out of the truck, there's really no other feeling like it. So I'm just gonna get into this. I don't like to spend too much time talking about the intro stuff. So why I chose to scale, not because it's easy, but because in my case it is necessary. And I do have some notes that I'm gonna be reading off of, but I hit the 11 good points that I'm gonna just kind of rip off from. Okay, so the first one is my hands capped my income, right? So we all have so many hours in a day. And if you were anything like me, maybe this is you right now, or it was you if you can relate. But I do 6 to 8 hours of cleaning, and then I still have to get back to calls, get back to emails, and spend 2 or 3 more hours scheduling, right? Like getting back with everybody I couldn't talk to when I was in these clients' houses. In my case, I capped mentally and physically and seasonally here in Michigan at about 155K. That's just window cleaning, and that's roughly 9 months worth. I really by myself could not do any more than that. Some guys do more than that, and that's awesome, especially pressure washers. They have higher tickets, so I guarantee you they're doing more than that. I know single guys that are doing over 200K pressure washing, so that's fantastic. But that just shows you like the limits of where you're at and where you can be. So my hands capped my income, and that was huge because with me doing everything and cleaning, that really capped what I could make revenue wise, right? Scaling allows revenue to grow without adding days to your week. So without cleaning all day, I was able to focus on the sales, and this was the first year. I'm still doing this, guys. I'm still in the trenches of this. I'm not really know kind of which states you can see everything, but I'm still working through this, and there's so much I learned in 2025 that I'm going to be able to really push towards in 2026. Last year I capped it about, like I said, 155K. I got off the truck this year, hired some guys, and we got up to about 225, which is fantastic because I worked maybe a week put together doing this on the truck, and everything else kind of was off, and I was doing my thing, focusing on other things. But it really just that first year of anything, right? Like the first time of anything, you just learn so much. And this year was no exception. So that's a pretty easy one. Jobs pay bills, assets build freedom, right? Let's not sugarcoat it. When you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything, you have a job, right? Like that's where I was at. I had a job. If I didn't work, no money came in. And that was fine for a couple years until my family started growing, and I was like, something's got to give here because I want more than that. I gave up hourly income at a job to do more than that, right? And that was kind of my mindset because with businesses with systems, staff, and recurring clients are sellable, right? And I don't plan on selling my business, but if that time ever comes, it's very, very hard to sell a business. If you're owner operator, it really is, because really all you have, unless you have copious amounts of government contracts or maintenance plans, maybe, people are just willing to buy either your client list or your all of your equipment, right? Your trucks and stuff. So it's very, very hard to sell as a owner operator. But once you get the systems in place, once you get the staff and the reoccurring business clients in place, it's a change game at that point. Scaling also, it unlocks, future sale potential like we talked about, but also it creates exit options for you. Like I said, if you ever wanted to, sell, or like in my case, I eventually, by the time I'm 40, I'm 34, I really want to be kind of maybe 2 days a week, popping in, making sure everybody's good. Everything's kind of working without me. I want that reduced dependency on me showing up. And this year was a big step towards that because the reviews started coming in without my name on them. We started servicing clients that I never met. That's never happened before. That was a really weird feeling, but it was necessary, right? Number 3, stability beats hustle. Skilled companies dominate with maintenance plans, and I'm going to be starting implementing maintenance plans in 2026. I've already kind of got it written up. And I think that's where the industry is kind of headed. That's, think of like pests solutions or stuff like that, that have already been doing it for a while because it creates predictable cash flow, better hiring, better marketing, and better sleep. To be honest with you, 2 times to 3 times and monthly pay, plan. So I'm doing biannual, triannual, and I will have a monthly plan option. I don't know if my area is quite going to go for that. I don't think they will. I think they'll be really focused on the buy and the try, but they'll have like locked in pricing, priority scheduling, and that really all that only works in the scaling aspect because it takes a lot more that goes into it. You're going to need more than just your brain to handle that because once you start setting up those kind of plans, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot more work than you're currently doing. A lot of those one-offs to really engage that. So number 4, I'm booking through these guys. I stopped being the best cleaner and I became the best decision maker. One of the biggest things that I got from the HSBC Home Service Business Coach is, I have to think more like a CEO and not a technician, right? Like I wanted to be doing the $100 an hour tasks and eventually the $500 an hour tasks rather than the $25-$20 an hour tasks, right? Owners should focus on sales, marketing, systems, and partnerships, right? So I've kind of, I've had some meetings over the last couple of weeks with different companies around me that I'm going to be partnering with this year. A pest company, window installation company. I really want to introduce my business, which I've done very little marketing since I've started 7 years ago. It's all been organics, and I'm going to really double down on organics. But I'm going to be opening up LSAs this year, 2026. I'm going to be doubling down on yard signs and 5-arounds and 10-arounds and just really dive it in. But I also want to be inside the homes that a lot of these businesses are already in, right? So I'm inserting myself into newsletters for house cleaning companies. I'm trading stuff like that, and I'm going to offer a deal for them. I did a little bit of that last year to my clients, right? Because I'm providing value, and that's really what you want, is to provide value. I've kind of done that, with scaling creates opportunities. In my case, since I've started thinking about the whole scaling process, I've become a full-time sales rep for Tucker USA, which is a worldwide leader in, solar panel cleaning equipment and water-fed cleaning equipment. And I've also, hopped on with Markate, which is a CRM, as kind of a spokesperson for them. I've been doing some small commercials for them. But like all of this would not be possible if I was still just grinding all day long, right? Like on the truck. So I mean, it really does create opportunities that all of this kind of ties into the business, right? And it gets me more well rooted, and I'm able to do education content like this, and it kind of fits in my long-term vision because eventually I want this business to be an asset that doesn't rely on me and that I can focus on the real fun stuff that I love doing, like Tucker and like stuff like this, right? Like I do enjoy this and I do enjoy helping you guys. So the next one is kind of like an honest side of the cons that like no one really likes talking about, right? Growth magnifies the problems. And I have written down here, like more customers as you scale really involves more expectations, right? More jobs is more scheduling pressure. Small issues become big ones really fast, when you're doing such a large amount of jobs. But scaling also exposes things. It exposes weak systems. It exposes poor communication and bad pricing. When you can't scale something that wasn't really working in the first place. So guys without foundation, that's why I've spent the last 6 or 7 years really building my foundation, because I knew probably about 4 years ago that I wanted to do this and start that journey, but I wanted to get everything really, really as tight as possible in regards to my socials, my Google profile, my community awareness, right? Like people know home and window washing. I am like in all my, local neighborhood groups, I'm really the first one people kind of comment. Excuse me, I'm the one that gets the most comments, that people recommend, and I love that, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But I am learning as I go, and that's why I jumped down with HSBCs, because I wanted to get the systems in place, and I wanted to get the right programs in place so when I start hiring like I have and I start bringing on people, I don't just throw them a big mess. Because a lot of the times people are like, oh, I have trouble hiring. Hiring's not hard, guys. It's just finding the right people and training them the right way, and not just throwing them into the ring and hoping for the best, right? Like, we've all been there at jobs and stuff where you're like, oh, it's your first day, this is what you do. They give you 5 seconds and they expect you to go do it. I have a training program in place that we have really, and I still have a lot of work to do on it, but, I spend time with them. I coach them through certain situations, because a lot of this is not just window cleaning. That's the easy part. A lot of this is just the expectation from the client, setting the expectation from the client. Setting up the client for success and telling them, okay, this is what we're doing today. Do you have any issues? Walk them through after the job is done and making sure they don't have anything. We want as less callbacks as possible, but if you don't have systems, just super simple systems in place to do that, if you try to scale something that's broken, it's not going to last very long, okay? So, number 7, I don't clean windows all day. I solve problems, right? So that's what I talked about with moving up in the per hour tasks. So I'm not cleaning windows at $25 an hour anymore. I'm solving problems at $50, $75, and $100 an hour. But eventually, I'm going to be replacing myself, right? Like, you're taking a hat off just to put another one on, and you keep doing that until you've eventually kind of taken off the last hat per se, if that's your goal, right? And then you're kind of your business is kind of running a little bit. Common experiences, employees call off, clients reschedule, equipment breaks, payroll is due whether it rains or not, and I'm no longer tired in my shoulders, right? Like, all of us has been there. Like, I'm not tired physically, but I do get tired in my head a lot more. So when you start scaling, you got to really think about, like, you're going to be tired physically a little bit, but not as much as you were when you were cleaning, right? But you're going to be a lot more tired mentally, because there's a lot more mental headaches that come in the picture that you have to deal with and you have to work through. And that's why you're only as strong as your weakest system or your weakest SOP or your weakest employee, right? So that's why it's so pivotal, guys. Number 8, finding help is harder than learning the skill. Across the industries, window cleaning in particular isn't really glamorous. Training takes time. Turnover is super real, especially on the franchises for some reason where they don't like to pay as much. I try to pay my guys 15 to 20% above industry standard. So eventually, like, I'm seasonal right now, but eventually I want to become year-round and create other opportunities for my guys. And I pay them. I give them bonuses. I give them incentives for Google reviews. I do all these things to just help them, excel and like their job and enjoy being there. But scaling forces you to build the SOPs, right? Train patiently and lead people who don't care as much as you do and never will. That was huge for me. I was such a control freak that it was so hard for me to give up certain things, really anything. Ask my wife, right? Like, she tries to help me and I'm like, I got this. And I had to step back and just say, right, like, it's better for somebody to do it at 80% than me do everything at 100%, right? Because that's how you burn out. And I did burn out the last couple of years, about 3/4 of the way through the season, because I was going so hard. Revenue went up, but profit lagged, right? So profit can dip before it grows. And I didn't see this because I kind of didn't rush it. But very common scaling curves to look out for is like payroll increases before your efficiency increases. Those mistakes that your techs are making, that they will make, cost money, and training time reduces short-term output, and that's why many people quit scaling too early, right? So, like, they hit all these roadblocks, and instead of keep going and push back those, they kind of push back and they're like, I told you this wasn't going to work. I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to go do it by myself. It's so much easier. If you can get through those first couple of hurdles, guys, it is well worth it. But none of this, like I said, is going to happen unless you have the proper systems in place. Okay. Number 10, no one will do it exactly like you. We just talked about that, guys. It's such a mind game, and if anything is proof, it's, use my first year as proof. My guys got over 75 reviews this year, 5-star reviews, and I did spend some time training. I was out on the truck with them their first week or two, just helping them and guiding them. But you have to invest, and after you find the appropriate people, that's where everything comes in with your training, and it all starts from the first phone call. I do a I do a phone call interview first, ask some questions, and then if I like what I hear, then we're gonna meet in person, and then there's a whole other set of questions. But I mean, you can find reliable people, guys. Don't just grab the first person that breathes, right? Like, you gotta create your culture, your pillars, right? Like every company should have like their 4 or 5 pillars that they stand on, right? Like responsibility, like ethics, and stuff like that you can point to, when training and say, this is what we stand for. How do you feel about that? Can you reflect that? And it's going to be really hard to find somebody pretty fired up about window cleaning, but if you create the opportunity for them and tell them, like, I'm growing, I want you to grow with me. There's going to be opportunities there for you to grow with me, and you stand behind that, you're going to have a good crew. I had 0 call-offs this year. My guys were fantastic. I had 1 full-time and 3 part-time guys. 2026, I'm going to have 2 full-time, 2 part-time. I just got a new van a couple days ago. I'm going to have 2 full-time vans out there, guys. And my biggest issue going into 2026 is going to be leads. My guys are trained. We're going to have some refresher courses, some OSHA stuff, the nitty-gritty of the first week. We're back, but those guys know what they're doing. And I'm going to push them a little bit harder than I did last year. But I'm also going to pay them a little bit better than I did last year, right? If they produce and we hit our goals, then they're going to get rewarded. And that's what's going to keep them hungry, okay? Let's see, one thing you got to understand is jobs won't always be perfect, right? The 80-20 rule, like I said, 80% good, and you have to kind of be okay with that. And I know that's such a hard pill to swallow, but no one's ever going to do 100. Well, first off, you got to instill in your mind that it's an emotional hurdle, right? Not a technical hurdle. So as long as you get past that and you just create the best training program you can for your guys and gals, whatever you're hiring, it'll set them up for success. And then just coaching them through, because we had a lot of screens break this year. We had a lot of, things that happen. I have really decent clients, so I didn't have anything super, super crazy. We didn't have any windows break or anything like that, but that's all part of it. Teach them how to look out for broken windows. Teach them how to look out for, bent screens, cut screens, just things that maybe you took advantage of or took for granted while you were doing it, because people are starting, kind of brand new with this. Right? I'm not scaling because I wanted more money. I'm scaling because I want more options, right? So, and when I say options, I mean time with my family, right? Like family first for me. I was gone a lot in what I wanted to be out of on my last hourly job when I was working for somebody else. I kind of got wrapped back into it. It's a full circle moment because I was so engulfed into the business and it was doing what I didn't want it to do in the first place, what I was trying to get away from. And that's what scaling helps with, right? And strategic partnerships, time with family, long-term freedom, guys, and a business that works without you on every job. That's so huge for me. And honestly, like, over 50% of this is a mindset shift, and I know on that a lot. Decision to scale didn't really come lightly for me. Like I said, I always try to be in control, but if you can get the right people in your corner, for me, it was a coaching program. For me, it was partnering with other guys in the industry that have already done this, that are maybe doing 500, 800, a million, 2 million, 3 million, and just picking their brains as much as I can, and investing into myself, investing the time into myself. When you're doing everything, guys, you don't have time for jack diddly. You want to get the jobs done so you can get the money. That's all it boils down to. When you're scaling and you bring people on to replace you, you can step back, take a breath, take it all in, and making sure that kind of everything is going smoothly, and that it was the wildest feeling, those first couple weeks when these jobs were getting done without me. The checks were coming in and I didn't have to manually labor all day long for that money. It just hits different, right? It hits different, and my guys were doing well, right? Like, I spent time with them. I asked them, hey, what went right today? What went wrong? How can I help? I wanted to lead. I didn't want to look down on. I don't want to, I wanted to lead. I wanted to, hold their hand as long as they wanted me to, so they're comfortable. A lot of this is not window cleaning. A lot of this is just people. I've noticed that with a couple of my guys, it's people that they have trouble with, not the window cleaning. So if you can coach them through that and teach them how to be a people person, or as much as you can, to create that experience that the client wants to come back to every time, you're gonna have a successful technician, right? So thanks for listening, guys. This is why I chose to scale. I got into the nitty-gritty a little bit. This is episode 3. Drop some comments. I don't know it all, but I know a little. I'm still in the trenches of this, just like you guys, and I love just helping people out. I am a Tucker rep. If you guys need any water-fed device, equipment, Tucker USA, TuckerUSA.com is a phenomenal source for any needs. You can hit me up, 269-769-8849. I'd be glad to help and answer any questions, guys. Thanks for watching.